Hey, Real Green Ninja here. Today we're going to do something slightly different. We're going to have a vocabulary lesson. So let's begin. Now, the reason I want to do this is because sometimes when you guys call in, we'll be using the same words but talking about two different things. Or we might be talking about the same thing but using two different words. So I kind of want to clarify, like when you call and talk to me on the help desk, this is what I mean when I say what I'm saying. And I want to start out by talking about jobs. A job is something that you give your customer. So when you open up a customer's account here, there we go. This right here is a job. A job can be a program. It could be a special job. It could be a repeating special. It could even be a service call. So again, a job is doing something for your customer. Now, as far as creating the jobs, there are a couple different types of ways of doing or creating different types of jobs. We're going to go to data, product parameters, and services program specials. Now, services is what you do on the job. Now, a service could be a special job, it could be a repeating special, it could be a service call. It also could be a round in a program, which is a group of related services. So, again, a service is the actual thing that you're going out there doing on the job site. Now, as far as doing a service, if you have a group of related services, so for example, a fertilization program, you're not doing the same thing every time you go out there. You're doing something slightly different. Like the first round might be a pre-emergent, the second round might be a fertilization, third round might be a weed control. Again, you're doing something every time you visit that customer when you're performing the job that they have. So you would make sure to have it set as a round cycle. The round cycles will then be added into that program. So again, a program is a group of those related services. Now, if you're going out there and doing something one time, we call that a one-shot, okay? So for example, like a spring aeration, that'd be a one-shot. You go out there, you do it once. If the customer wants or needs another one, then you would go and add the job again fresh, all right? Now, if it's something where you're going out there doing the same thing over and over and over again on each visit, the most common example is lawn mowing, then that's what we call a repeating special, okay? Again, if you're doing the same thing every time you go out there, that's the repeating special. Now, there are some companies out there that will maybe have like a 4-round tree and shrub program, but each service inside that tree and shrub program is the exact same service. I don't judge. I try to make the software work the way that your company needs to make it work. But again, this is what we're usually talking about when we say a program or a special job or repeating special. A service call is just that. It's a follow-up visit. Most times service calls are not renewed. Because why? It's a follow-up visit. Hopefully you don't so bad that you have to renew service calls and do follow-up visits all the time. So like I was saying, is that this has caused a lot of confusion, especially when I do like a brand new company that's just starting, is trying to make sure we're all on the same page. And I want to make sure that when I say, well, okay, let me see what the program is, or what services do you have in the program, or do you have it set up as a repeating special or a program, you kind of understand what I'm saying. Another thing I want to talk about is estimates. Estimates, when I first started working here, I always consider an estimate is when that heating and cooling guy came out to my house and said, hey, it's going to be $2,000 to fix your furnace. All right. Now, when Real Green talks about estimates, they're talking more about information gathering sheets. Now, it's not saying that you can't have lines where you can write pricing information into it, but it's actually meant more for gathering information to bring back to the office, to put into the system, and then turn around and generate a proposal. And the proposal would be the thing that the system generates for your estimate. I'm sorry, for your customer with the pricing. And I wonder if, yeah, I think I have one in there. Let me take a look here. Let me see if I can get one. So get estimates. No, apparently I don't have anybody. I'm going to pause real quick and get this so I can get one for you. All right, there we go. So I got someone. I added a service to a customer so I could pull up this estimate. So again, like I said, it'd be something where you're going to gather information. So for example, you might have like the number of trees that are on the property, the square footage of the flower bed, square footage of the lawn, linear feet for perimeter pests. You could even, again, like I said, put in lines where you can put in pricing, handwrite out. But if you did something like this, you would print out 2 copies of the estimate and then leave a copy with the customer. But you're going to bring back the estimate to the office so you can put that information into the system and, again, therefore generate a proposal. Now, as far as what to use an estimate for, most companies will actually just create the service or program or add the program or the job to the customer's account into zero status, and they'll have an estimate for that job or program. There are some companies out there that will actually create a service called estimating service or estimate service, and they'll use that to generate the estimate and then add the programs and jobs and other things accordingly. Okay, now As far as a proposal is concerned, a proposal is something that you're going to send your customer. Either you're going to mail it, you're going to hand deliver it, you're going to email it to the customer, send it to Real Green and have us print it out for you. It's something that you would give to your customer that the system generated the pricing for. Now, again, it could be the price charts or whatever. But like I said, it's a proposal is something that we consider is what you give when you're doing your pricing. Now, as far as proposals are concerned, there's two different kinds. There's a custom proposal, and then there's a what I call prepay as proposal. Prepay as proposal is the most common way that people do it, because prepay as proposal are a heck of a lot easier. Now, if you are interested, I do have a crash course on how to do custom proposals, and it talks about putting the variables in there or the placeholders for different information, how to see what information the particular report's exporting, and so on and so forth. So again, if you're interested in custom proposals, or what also is called master to a linked document, that's going to be that custom proposal crash course video. But again, like with a prepay letter, we'd come over here, we'd say the list of services is proposed, we'd eliminate anything that refers to prepay, unless you plan to give them some sort of prepay discount. But again, a proposal is the computer-generated sheet that has the pricing information. The estimate, you would have to handwrite it, but again, print 2 copies if you plan to do like that and leave it on the job site. Now, another thing I want to talk about is I want to talk about pulling work. A lot of times, there are companies out there that will not actually leave an invoice at the time of service. So therefore, they use like a worksheet or a driver's report or something like that. The area to get to it is still called invoices. All right. So again, it'll be invoices here, but again, keep in mind, think of this as we're going to pull our work for the day. We're going to have our criteria stuff, maybe throw it to a map, grab it by geographical location or whatever. But again, even though it says invoices, think of it as pulling work. So when I call up and say, okay, well, what are you using to pull your invoices? Well, you might not pull invoices, and that's fine. And say, well, actually, I'm doing lawnmower worksheet. Okay, cool. Well, let's go ahead and go to the invoices screen. Well, again, we're still going to the invoices screen, but we're generating that worksheet. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is entering production. What entering production means is we're telling the system that the work's been completed and to charge that customer's account. So again, production entry saying, hey, we did this work, charge the customer's account. Now, there are customers out there that are set up with installment plans. You're still going to post production on it, even though you're not charging them for the individual service, because you still want the system to keep track of the value of that service against that installment plan. So again, like I said, production entry is we're actually putting in the information saying, hey, we did the work, charge that person's account, and so that way they can owe us and we can collect in payments and stuff like that. Now, as far as payments are concerned, we have a couple different kinds of payments. We have the regular payments, which would be something where someone pays their remit. We have prepayments where they give money ahead of time, and usually when you do prepayments, they're going to pay for their complete program, and therefore you're going to give them some sort of discount or there's some sort of incentive saying, hey, if you give me all the money up front, we'll cut you a break on something. Deposits. We also refer to as landscape deposits. Now, it might be for irrigation installation or a fountain installation or maybe even like a landscape job. The landscape deposits, just again, don't get caught up on that landscape. Just think of it as deposit. The customer is paying you part of the money up front, and it is set up a little bit special. And again, I do have a crash course on landscape deposits, or I'm pretty sure I do one. I'll have to double check, but I'm pretty sure I have one on there. If not, I'll have to make one. Another thing I want to talk about is work orders. Work orders are line item priced services. For example, if you're planning to use time and materials, saying, hey, we went out there and we put 10 of those down and 5 of those down, and we took 15 hours and we're charging separately for the hours, that's what's called a work order. I do have a crash course on work order. That I do know I have. So again, a work order is where you're planning to do line item pricing, and you're not charging off of either manual where you put it in manually, or you're charging off of a man-hour rate, or you're charging off of a price table. The next thing I want to talk about is I want to talk about pre-notify. Now, pre-notification is something that pretty much almost all of you guys do not have to worry about. Pre-notification means you're actually going to send out postcards or some of the document to the adjacent properties of the one that you're going to be servicing. This is different than a call ahead. You'll see pre-notify in a couple different areas. So for example, if we go to a contact tab, you'll see like text pre-notify or email pre-notify. If we go into product parameters, services, program specials under the service, whether or not it's considered a pre-notification service, as well as if we go over here and hit the little icon that says set pre-notification neighbors. Again, this is something that most of you guys do not have to worry about unless you have to notify the adjacent properties before you actually make that visit. The only state that I'm really certain that you have to pre-notify is New York. Now, of course, your state may require it. I can't say. But again, pre-notification is something most of you guys don't have to know about. But again, I want to explain what it is so that way you know what it is. Map codes. Well, since we're on the screen here, map codes. Map codes is an older way of routing. Back in the day, you would have a map book, and it'd be like page 52, grid A14, and then that would be the location of the property. Map codes are an older way of doing things. Now, there are some companies out there that do not have mapping. They still use the old map code way of doing. But again, you're spending 2 hours a day figuring out your routes and stuff like that, where if you have the routing assistant, just throw them on the map, grab the people that you want, and boom, you got that route for the day. Like I said, there are things in the software that you're never going to use because it's just an older way of doing things, and because of that, with the routing assistant and GPS and all that stuff, you really don't have to do it that way anymore. Day codes and sequence numbers. Talking about routing. When you open up a job here, a day code is simply another filter for when you're pulling your work. So if we go to the invoice screen, we can go through and say, I want to have all the customers that have day code from this to this. Again, it's just a filter. Some companies say Monday's 1, Tuesday's 2, Wednesday's 3. I had a company January 1st was 1, February 1st was 32, and so on and so forth, because it was a number of the day of the year it was. So again, day codes are kind of an older way of doing things. Again, if you want to use them, they're there for you. But like I said, with routing assist and all that stuff, life is so much easier. The sequence numbers. If you absolutely positively know the order that you're going to be doing these stops in, you can put in sequence numbers. Usually it's like 10, 20, 30, 40. And then if you get a new customer, they might end up being 15 or 25 or whatever. Again, it's an older way of doing things because the sequence number only matters when you first pull the invoices into this list. Because once you go to that globe, those sequence numbers go out the window. So again, sequence numbers, older way of doing it, but if you absolutely positively know exactly the order that they're going to be in, and you never plan to throw them on the map or add anybody on the fly, then you could use sequence numbers. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is monthly invoices. Now, I do believe I have a crash course on monthly invoices out there, but pretty much don't get hung up on the word monthly. If we go to print invoices, monthly invoices, this utility here looks for any customers that has a service. And again, it could be around within a program, it could be a special job, a repeating special, it could be a work order. But again, it's looking for any service that has a billing type that's set to statement only when you posted production. So therefore, when you go into the production screen under the service, let's see here, scroll up a little bit. Oh, this is a bad example here. Let me find a better one here. Oh, there we go. That might. Okay, there we go. Service. This right here would be set to statement only, as well as when you go into the service, like let's say for example we take a look at this, there is not yet an invoice number. Again, I do have a crash course on monthly invoices, but again, don't get hung up with the word monthly. I could run this every single day, and as long as a customer has something in their history tab that's set to statement only when you posted production, as well as does not currently have an invoice number, then it would pull up on that monthly invoice. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is I want to talk about active database customers versus marketing database customers. When you open up the customer screen here, you'll see we actually have a chance to look for active data or marketing data. Again, this is one of those things that's caused confusion in the past. Marketing data are going to be customers that are in that blue marketing status, the M status. If we take a look at a marketing customer, I hope I have at least one, there we go. They actually have no service grid down here because they're in, again, they're a marketing customer. Now you can move them to the active customer database, but again, marketing customers are just that. They're in the marketing database. Active data customers are going to be customers that are in a 0 through 9 status. So you can have an active database customer that is a no status. You can have an active database customer that's a cancel status. Again, you're not actively doing services for them, but they're active in that they're in the active database. Then you can have an active database customer that's an active customer. Now, usually when we talk about active customers, we're strictly talking about the status 8 or 9, those green status actives. But again, there is an active customer database. There is a marketing customer database. Within the active customer database, there's a 0 through 9 statuses. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 are the estimates. 5, 6, and 7 are your cancel statuses. 8 and 9 are your active statuses, which again are the ones you're actually going out there and doing stuff for. So, I might do another vocabulary video in the future. Maybe I'll get a little bit more organized because it's kind of over around the map here. I just did a training not that long ago where some of these terms we had a little bit of confusion with. So again, I thought I might knock this out and maybe help clarify a few things that when we call real green, you know what we're talking about. So I hope this helps, and you guys have yourself a wonderful day.